Well, good day everybody. Welcome back to the High Desert Garden. So today I wanted to just show you what I'm doing. I have a kumquat tree, which is a citrus tree, and it's not performing very well right now. It's dropped, 3/4 or more of its leaves, and I'm gonna basically take you in and show you what's going on. I had two problems with this kumquat, and I'm just going to go ahead and show that to you. So here is the kumquat that I ordered online. I showed you guys in a previous video, and when it came to me, it had some sort of an infestation, little bugs that I originally thought may have been aphids, but after doing a little bit of research, discovered that they were scales. Now, I think that I have gotten rid of the scales. I mean, after all, there's not much left for the scales to eat, as most of the leaves have dropped. But I had a secondary problem. When you order trees from a nursery, oftentimes they can come root bound, and this one did. It came pretty root bound. Today I decided to take it out of the pot to see what may be going on with it, and as you can see, there's a big chunk of roots missing from this section right here, and that's because I just recently cleaned the root ball and got rid of some root rot that was starting to take place. What I found is the nursery used a ton of wood chips and bark chips for their growing medium, and that may work depending on what your watering schedule is. How frequently you water is going to depend on what your growing medium is made of. If you have a soil mixture that doesn't hold moisture, you're going to water a lot more frequently. I did not inspect the root ball thoroughly enough prior to choosing what I was going to do with this plant. As far as I did repot it, and I added my own well-draining soil, but the center of the root ball, where it was all root bound, and the majority of the roots were, it started to rot in there. So that's something to think about when you get a tree from a nursery. Find out what's in the soil. If I had broken apart that root ball a little bit, inspected it a little bit more, the amount of wood chips and bark that's in there, I may have only needed to water, every couple of weeks, because of how much wood, and the wood was really starting to break down. It's very very crumbly and starting to rot and break down. So I'm going to go with a different soil mixture. I did clean the root ball very well. There's some wood still in there because I didn't want to disturb the roots too much, but I removed a lot of the wood and the bark chips that were in there. So over here, it's a very loose, doesn't compact soil. There's sand in here, there's pumice, and there's perlite in here. Something that I decided that I was going to add was some biochar, because charcoal is used, you know, in growing mediums of things, you know, like you may be familiar with certain tropical flowers, orchids, and things like that that are grown in a mixture that has charcoal or biochar, you know, in the growing medium. So I had a fire and burned it down really well, and then I extinguished the fire before it could burn all the charcoal. And this stuff comes apart real easy. It's totally ready for adding, you know, as part of the growing medium. You know, just break it up a little bit. I'm going to use plenty of it. You know, the difference between using something like charcoal and wood is wood will absorb water. Charcoal will adsorb water. Okay? And there's a big difference between absorb and adsorb. If you don't know what the difference is, you might just look it up and read about it a little bit. Alright, so here is the kumquat after repotting it. Let's have a look at the soil. As you can see, there is all kinds of biochar in there. I used a lot, so this growing medium is probably 20 to 25% biochar now. I removed most of the wood chips, in particular the wood chips that were rotting. I pruned this long stem off. For one, it had dropped all of its leaves, and for two, I want this to bush out. I want this to have a low center of gravity and be a little bit bushy, and I didn't want it to be tall and gangly kind of like it was. So this branch, as you can see, is still very much alive, and the root ball wasn't in terrible shape. It's still got quite a few good roots, so as long as this growing medium works, we will be good to go. So I will go ahead and bring you the update here in just a moment. Alright, I have some updated results a week later. The citrus trees, so let's have a look, see what they're doing. Alright, so here is the larger kumquat tree that was sent to me second, and I'm really glad that the same day I uprooted that tree and checked the root system, that same day I checked this one. And I'm glad I did that, because this tree had started to drop a few leaves here and there, and I just didn't know if it was from the shock of shipping or what it was. But I took it out of the pot to check the roots. So glad I did, because 3/4 of the root system had just rotted away, and it had to have been about to start just dropping leaves like crazy, just like this one did. Now, since transplanting it in its new growing medium a week ago, it has not dropped a single leaf. In fact, what I wanted to share with you guys, it has not dropped a single leaf since I used the biochar over the bark or wood chips, whatever was in there. It was so broken down, guys. It was like a a wood bark slurry. This biochar won't rot. I'll be able to use this stuff. This stuff will be around as long as I'm alive. I won't have to worry about that growing medium whatsoever. Now, the great thing that I've noticed is rather than dropping leaves, it is now started to actually, let me see if I can zoom in here, started to put out little buds. It's starting to grow leaves all up and down this stem. Even the little stems. Even down here at the base, I've got growth. I could turn this around and you can see right here more growth. Okay? Not only is it starting to bud out and put out a bunch of new leaves, it started to produce flowers as if it wants to fruit. Okay? Now, I'm not too concerned about it fruiting at the moment. If it starts to put out fruit, I will probably just remove it from the tree, because I'm more concerned with the health of this tree over getting any fruit from it right now, because I want it to be healthy. When it does fruit, I want it to be ready for it. I will be back here momentarily with an update. Alright, here we are 2 weeks later. 2 weeks since changing out the soil, getting rid of a lot of the rotten wood chips and bark chips that were in the soil. And this is the little kumquat tree that was just decimated. It had some root rot for sure, but look at the improvement. So here, this spot right here is where I had cut that longer branch, the longest branch, which I didn't really like anyways, because the citrus trees really should bush out and be a closed canopy tree. But look at the growth since the last update. Look at that. New growth, all of this, new growth. We've got new growth everywhere. And it did have just recently bunches of flowers which have been pollinated, and as you can see, it wants to actually fruit. And those are little miniature kumquats. Being that I'm more interested in the growth of the tree, I'm just going to snip those fruit away. But even a lot of the growth over here has fruit. So I've got about 10 to 12 that I'll need to clip away as soon as they get a little bit bigger. Anyway, you can see just how healthy and how well it's growing just by getting rid of the root rot, changing the soil, using a good biochar mix. So you can in fact use biochar with citrus trees. In my opinion, I believe this is just going to keep getting better. So I'll keep you guys updated, and maybe come back in another week or two, let you know what's going on. What it really comes down to is it's a learning experience, and I think the biochar is going to be better regardless. So hopefully this has given you citrus growers an idea. You know, if you've had any problems with root rot,